Hello, Facebook friends. How's everybody? My name is Diane Donnelly, and I am a realtor and owner of the Donnelly Group of Keller Williams Flagship of Maryland. And we are doing this series called Facts, Not Fears, as a result of conversations that I've had with people like you, friends, family, and clients about what the heck is going on in COVID and what is going on in the market. How does it affect me? And how can we safely navigate through this? So today we are honored and blessed to have Angie Hayes, who represents both buyers and sellers on our team, and Andrea Loretangeli, who strictly works with buyers and is the president of the buyers division, and we all work together. And today we are going to be talking about buying homes during COVID. Andrea, is there such a thing? Like, what's going on in the market?
Well, people are buying homes, which is a good thing. So, I think a lot of people are thinking the market was going to crash and burn, especially here in Arundel County in Maryland, where, the governor shut down everything as of March 30th. But, it's not a typical spring market by any means, but the numbers are pretty good given the circumstances. So, for example, the active and coming soons from like March 30th when we shut down to yesterday, we're almost at 1,300 homes that have come on the market. Active or coming soon status. Pending's almost 2,000, which that's incredible. And then closed, people that actually have gone to settlement, a little over 1,500. So the market is still active here in Anne Arundel County for sure.
Well, ladies, do you remember when COVID happened? And I remember right in the beginning where we heard about it happening in China, and we're like, oh, that's really bad, that stinks. And then we'd hear about it moving, and then it came to, the first one is Washington, and then it eventually came to Anne Arundel County, and we thought, oh, like, the world is going to stop. Like, real estate is going to stop. This is scary. Like, what are we going to do? And we got everything in line, and it didn't happen. It slowed down for sure. But it didn't happen the way we all anticipated. First, why do you think that is? Like, what do you think is the reason behind that? Why did things keep going?
Well, hi. I think, I think one of the major things is people need homes, and people have life changes that are going to occur whether or not we're in a pandemic. So I know that everybody I've spoken to who is okay with looking, and buying, they have a reason. Yeah. And, I know Andrea and I talked about that, they either were renting, and what happens when your lease runs out? Right. Right. We saw, I think, one of the other states, they were going to be homeless because they had nowhere to go. So thank goodness Maryland didn't do that. And we were able to kind of roll on with precautions.
Right. Right. I remember talking to somebody and I said, why are you out looking during a pandemic? And she said, this is going to be around for some time, and I'm not going to let COVID stop my life. I'm going to keep doing. And we've had people that weren't considering moving that since COVID started decided, I am going to live my life because we don't know what tomorrow brings. Isn't that an interesting perspective?
Yeah. And they also realize, hey, my house is too small.
That's funny you say that, Ange, because probably in the last 3 weeks, I've had clients say, I really figured out our house is way too small. So a lot of people looking for larger homes these days.
Yeah. And a lot of people are now looking for 2 master bedrooms, not one.
Right. 3 levels.
I think we're onto a new real estate trend.
Yeah. Or an outbuilding to put kids or husbands.
When they're in the doghouse, we need the doghouse building.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
How are interest rates right now?
I was checking with one of our local lenders, and they're amazing, which I know everybody hears that and they don't really know what that means. So just to quantify that, if you've got really great credit, you can get a 30-year conventional this week at 3.5. You can get an FHA or a VA for 3.25. If you want to pay a point, you could be at 2.99.
What's paying a point mean, Angie? What's that all about?
Well, you pay a portion. It's 1% of your loan amount.
And then it buys the interest rate down.
Buys the interest rate down.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So there's many different. The great thing is we work with awesome lenders, and they have so many different avenues our buyers can go down. They can look at multiple, programs, but also within those programs, they're going to get really specific about what works for that buyer.
Yeah, and in speaking to some of our lender partners, when everything was going bad, when we were in the mix of the really bad parts of it, and the mortgage programs and the guidelines were changing overnight, literally 1 hour it would be one thing, the next hour it would be completely different. Everything was in turmoil for some time, and it's settled down now. And I know that in speaking to our partners, they said that the interest rates have stabilized, and that the credit scores that had gone up to reduce risk. So if your credit score was too low, they weren't going to lend you the money they would have 3 months ago. That is starting to come back down and to get to where it was pre-COVID. So that's even more good news.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and the jumbo loans are back too. So probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were starting to hear no jumbo loans, which in Arundel County, that's loan amounts over 517. I just had a buyer this week looking at a jumbo loan in the mid threes.
Awesome.
So that's
Wow.
incredible. Like,
It
so
is.
that
I don't
those
think I've
higher
ever heard
dollar
of it that
amount
low.
loans they're out there. And if, there's people that have great credit right now, you're really being rewarded. So,
Absolutely.
yep.
Absolutely. And,
Well, speaking of that, are there safety precautions for people that are still a little nervous to go out? I know that we've lifted a lot of things, and starting tonight, even more level 2.
Yeah.
Are there precautions that agents are taking or sellers are taking to accommodate buyers coming into their home?
Yeah, definitely. Even when we shut down March 30th, I was still showing homes. Now more people are out in comparison to back then. But, a couple things, the precautions are necessary. First and foremost, we're not taking buyers out unless they've 100% been pre-approved with their lender. Sellers don't want to let anybody in their house that are not financially able to do so. So we do that anyway, but now everybody's really requiring to see that. And then secondly, the nice thing is a lot of the listing agents got really wise, and there's a lot of very nice virtual tours in the listings, as well as the typical photos. So what we're asking buyers is to really thoroughly look at the virtual tours, look at the photos. If they're not familiar with the neighborhood, go ahead and take a drive by to make sure, they like what they see before they schedule a showing. So, days of old, we might have said, oh, well, let's go see this one. I'm not really sure about it, but let's go in. So we're not really doing that anymore. We want it to be a top contender before scheduling a showing to go in. What's also happening is the showings, there's only like really 30 or 45-minute time allotments for the showings. So what that does is basically only one group of people can be in the house at once. So typically it's the agent and 2 people. So we only want people who are parties to the contract going inside the house. A lot of times that's a maximum of 3. No children, unfortunately, no friends, other family members are allowed to come in during the showings. We're asking all the listing agents, if the home is occupied, to turn all the lights on, open all the closet doors a little bit, the pantry door, the bathroom door, so to minimize us touching things when we're in the house. We're all wearing booties on our feet, gloves and masks. That's all required now going in. So, it's a very safe environment to bring people in. I think people feel comfortable now letting people in their homes, and people are feeling a little bit more comfortable going inside. So it's working out well so far, and I think everybody's really abiding by the guidelines that are set forth in the industry. So I think as a whole, our industry has done a good job at, keeping buyers and sellers safe when they're out there.
Yeah, I do too. I had a conversation with the seller the other day who said, I feel safer showing my home than I feel going into the grocery store where there could be 30 people.
Yeah.
They're coming into my home, they're not touching anything, and they're gone in 15, 20, 30 minutes. So I think the initial really pent up fear is starting to go away now. Now it's, okay, let's be logical and take the right precautions. And I think that it behooves the agents to really monitor and make sure that that's happening. It falls on our shoulders to make sure that we're complying with all of that. And I know that you and Angie will not take anybody in your car that haven't been pre-qualified or aren't willing to wear a mask and protective coverings.
Yeah, days of old was bringing in your car. Now everybody meets out there and we stay social distance, even though we have our masks and gloves on. So we're just trying to keep everybody safe, and, you know, it's been going well, I'd say.
Well, I've heard you and Angie having conversations with people who say, okay, here are the houses that I want to see. And there's sort of an outlier that's, you know, you were in the 3 to 350 range and one's 425, where in days of old, you might have gone out and taken them there. Now it's, let's talk about that $400,000, 425. If you fall in love with that house, are you qualified to buy that house? And if the answer is no, let's take that off our list now.
Right.
Right.
And I asked the questions, you know, have you looked at the virtual tour? Have you looked at the photos? You know, for those neighborhoods, people are like, I don't know where that is. I'm like, go take a drive by. You know, it's a couple of extra steps for the buyers, but it's well worth it to keep them safe and then keep the sellers safe as well.
Right. It's our responsibility to try to keep flattening that curve that they keep talking about and doing our due diligence. Let's talk about that for a minute. If people are looking to buy their first home, what kinds of questions do you ask them to help them to narrow down what they're looking for?
Yeah.
So when somebody's buying their first home, you know, we like to have a buyer meeting, which we can absolutely do on a Zoom call. And so you're going to, number one, you're going to, of course, they want to contact a experienced real estate agent who is in the market, who understands the conditions, what's going on, you know, is educated. And then they want to, you know, we will also help them, but we really want to get them with a great local lender who understands, again, the market conditions and understands our market in, you know, for example, Anne Arundel County. And then we want to talk to them about, you know, in terms of COVID, you're talking about that. We want to.
I'm just talking about in general, like if you did a buyer intake form, what kinds of questions would you ask so that they can help start thinking about things that that might be good ideas to have in mind, so that you and Andrea can help narrow down their search for them.
Yeah. So so we're gonna really dig deep. We want to know, why are they moving? What are your goals? What do you see? You know, what is changing with your family that you need to get to this next step? We want to understand the whole, you know, the whole picture instead of just 3 bedrooms, 4 baths. We want to understand, okay, where do you work? How does this work for, you know, you and your family? So there's a lot of really digging deep into, you know, why they're moving, what it means to them. And then we want to make sure, like you said, we stay within the perimeters of what they can afford. And we want to look at, you know, areas that they, you know, they'd be interested in. But I think you have to really sit down and like get a roadmap before you just take somebody out, because we really need to get that all that information together so we as realtors can get them into homes that are really going to be good for them and their family. And then also make sure that they understand everything from the buyer agency paperwork and how we work as realtors. Andrea, do you have anything to add to that?
I think that it's all of that, but I think, you know, the biggest thing now is education on the market before they enter. You know, so, you know, everybody looks at homes online when they're starting to make that decision. And, you know, statistics show us, you know, people look at homes 6 to 12 months online before they say, you know what, I'm ready. So first and foremost, that financial part is critical. They need to get with a reputable lender and get pre-approved. And by that, I mean, they need to, you know, give their tax returns, their W-2s, bank statements, because a pre-qualification, what you see is like a lot of lenders can write on a piece of paper, Joe Schmo is approved for, you know, $400,000. And when you dig a little deeper, did you collect any of their statements? So some lenders will just say, oh, well, they told me they make, you know, X amount of money, but does that person know if they're on commission, if they get bonuses, if they're on salary? So a lot of times these lenders just, you know, especially, I hate to say it, I mean, like the internet lenders, they're just going by what people tell them, give them a piece of paper, and these poor buyers think they're pre-approved and they're not. That piece I can write up a piece of paper and say, you know, Dan's approved for $350.
Right.
So,
can I share a story with you about that exactly?
Sure. Yep, I'm sure you have many.
I have many, and I have a recent one. And I come from the opposite side. So I represent sellers. Andrea and Angie represent buyers for the most part, Angie. So from my perspective, I was in a multiple offer situation, and the higher, the higher net, the person who wrote and the seller got the highest net. We went through our due diligence, making sure everything panned out, that everything was signed, initialed, etc. We wrote up our sheet that says, here are all the terms. And then we were calling the lender, and we're looking at the lender letter, right, that you guys are talking about. And it said, if everything that the buyer has said is true, they're qualified to buy your home. That's basically what the letter said, but in mortgage terms, mortgagees. Verbiage. So I was sitting there and thought, we're not going to be willing to take our house, the seller's house, off the market and tell another buyer that they're not going to move forward because we have chosen another one based on a lender letter that says, if it's all true, it's cool. Well, I don't want to know if it's all, that's not good.
You want to know if it's true.
I want to know, I want you to know that it's true, and I want you to tell me that it's true. So we called the lender and we said, okay, have you verified all the documentation? No, not yet, but they'll get it to me shortly. I said, we can't take the house off the market if the people have not delivered the information. This letter is no, I could have written this letter. I could have done that. The buyers themselves could have written that letter.
Yep.
So what ended up happening was I called the agent, and I said, you've done your buyers a disservice. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have had them in your car, A, without being pre-qualified. 2, you shouldn't have had them in my seller's house during COVID without them having proven that they're able to be qualified to buy the home. And 3, now we're going to take the other offer because your people aren't prepared. So we took the other offer. Yeah. So speaking to that, Andrea, I can't underscore that enough. Provide W-2s, pay stubs, and bank statements to a reputable lender prior to falling in love with the house.
Yep.
Because right now, Andrea and Angie, have you guys written any offers in the past 3 months where it was a multiple offer situation?
Every one
of them.
100% of mine have all been multiple offers. Yep.
So if you're doing right by your people, you're going to have them get this pre-approval letter, a strong, solid one, before you start putting them in the car.
Yeah, I actually ask an additional question in, like, I want to know what they do for a living, because we see a lot of people now getting furloughed, losing their job. If somebody's like, I had a client, for example, that was in retail, a manager, but I'm like, hey, do you think you're in jeopardy of losing your position? She was furloughed. I mean, not furloughed, they were still paying her, but, I could see the writing on the wall with retail. So we went ahead to see what, we can get her qualified on just her husband. He has a government job, stable, probably less than 1% chance of him losing his job. So we went ahead and got him qualified just on his income. So we had a backup plan, but, thank God they just settled last week and she didn't lose her job, but that's the reality of today.
Right. And we know with the lenders now, they're calling the day of settlement, making sure you still have your job, and or if you have had a reduction in pay. So
it's a great point, Angie.
We need to be on top of it as much as we can, and the lenders certainly are.
Yeah, they don't want us to schedule.
Don't buy an RV before you settle. Don't buy a new car before you settle. Don't buy all your furnishings before you settle, because things are going to be checked right before closing, right?
Yes. I used to laugh. I would say, call me before you buy anything, and I joke with people, but I'm like, really, before you make any big purchase, please call me, call the lender. We will figure out if your debt to income ratio can handle it.
Good. That's solid advice, Angie. That's really good advice.
Yeah. And I mean, really, we were looking at the months of inventory right now, because there's only, like you were saying, there's 1 month of inventory available between 100 to 500,000 in Anne Arundel County. We have to be on our game, and those buyers, our buyers have to be prepared. And so that's what we do. We want to make sure they're prepared, so we don't have something happen to you with your seller.
Right. It's great.
And the other side of that is too, you know, the agents, you start getting a reputation in our industry. So if you're bringing in a multiple offer, somebody looking for a $300,000 home, chances are there's more than 3 offers. So if you're putting your buyer up there fighting for them and then your buyer doesn't qualify, your name becomes mud quickly in our industry. So the next go around, when that listing agent has another listing, sees your name on a contract, they're going to be like, oh no, let's not, let's really question this one because she's done me wrong or he's done me wrong in the past.
Absolutely.
So we want to prevent that.
And then the listing agent starts to really dig because they don't want to be burned twice, burn once, burn twice. But also what I want to point out too is the opposite is true, that when you pick realtors who are by the book and they make things happen, they know how to negotiate, they know how to strategize a deal, they know how to put packages together, they know how to pay attention to details, and they're delivering a solid offer. You also get a reputation for that. And Andrea and Angie, I know both of you have won multiple offers, not because you were the highest bidder, but because they know your reputation. They know you're going to get to a closing table.
Yeah, I just had one last month. There were 5 offers on the table. They narrowed it down to a couple, and I had worked with that agent before, and she knew I would get the job done. So she said, Andrea, I'm picking your buyer because I know you're going to get them to the settlement table. So it was good to hear, but I was happy for my buyer, of course.
Yeah, and I'm sure they were happy too.
Yep, they were.
So in addition to, I want 4 bedrooms. I know how many bathrooms I want. I know I want a finished basement. I know I want to be back to the woods. What other things should people consider outside of some of those things when they are looking for a home? Things to help narrow down even more.
So, I would say amenities are huge. What kind of lifestyle are you thinking about living? Because for example, in Anne Arundel County, we have some beautiful water, we have waterways, we have the Magothy and the Severn. So do you want to be a boater? Is it more important for you to have a pool in your neighborhood, or do you not want any HOA at all?
Right.
So we get into that, almost instantly trying to figure out what does it look like in terms of lifestyle. And Andrea, you were going to say something.
I was going to say the critical part is narrowing down the must-haves, especially right now, because unfortunately, my buyer friends, there's not a lot of inventory to choose from. Angie just mentioned it a little earlier. So if you're buying a home under $500,000 in Anne Arundel County right now, and I'm sure it's true for our adjacent counties, you're about 1.5 months of inventory. So for those of you that don't know what that means, a balanced market is about 6 months. So that's kind of when we have an equal amount of inventory and buyers for that to absorb the inventory. So with 1.5 months, what that means is with all the homes that are on the market and all the buyers out there, the inventory is going to be absorbed in 1.5 months. I wouldn't say that's just low, it's critically low. I mean, we haven't seen this in 10 years. Yeah. So my buyer friends, it's nice to have, I would like to have, but what we really need to focus on those 2 or 3 things that are must-haves and then go for it from there. So to answer your question, Diane, I think the buyers have to be a lot more flexible than they once were. So this is a seller's market. So as I just mentioned, Ange mentioned, unfortunately, especially under 500,000, there are multiple offers. So as soon as the home comes on the market, you got to get out there. If it's Tuesday, you can't say, well, I'll wait till Saturday. Nope. No, you got to get out there that night and get in there as quickly as possible. So your agent just needs you to coach you on that. And then to get out there, if you like it, you can't ponder it for 72 hours. You got to be ready to make quick decisions. So, unfortunately, time is not on your side. So you have to move fast and you have to know what you're getting into. So making concessions on your offers is really critical right now. So, there are going to be multiple offers. You're going to have to be, in a lot of cases, willing to go over the asking price. There's things that Angie and I can coach you to do to prepare your offer so it gets noticed by the listing side and the sellers. And make concessions. I mean, I've had a couple here recently where buyers did as-is inspections, meaning they can do inspections, but we can't ask the seller to repair anything. So if the home is really in poor condition and they do the inspections and it scares them, they can cancel and get their earnest money deposit returned in full. But you can't go back and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, can you, fix the dripping hot water heater, because they're going to say, no, it's as is. So, but it helps you get your offer selected for sure. And Angie, what are you seeing as far as out there with your buyers?
Well, I was going to say, we even just saw with a $750,000 listing where people went in with an as-is inspection. So I think everybody's being super, they're really, if they're really motivated and they want that home, they're gonna, like you said, make some concessions. Maybe they, like you said, the as-is addendum, maybe they put the escalation clause, maybe they decide to ask for less closing help and try to figure out a way with their lender to, offset that, because, the days of going in, we're going to get 3%. We want, all the inspections. We're going to take our time. Those days are gone right now, and
Yep.
we're going to help them to get that home. So we're going to advise them in a way that, like you said, their offer stands out.
To make them the strongest offer.
Yes.
And to put them in a position to be best selected out of multiple offers.
Yeah. And keep the letter sometimes, right?
Yeah. And the people that have homes to sell, unfortunately, depending on your price point on the next one, sellers aren't taking contingent home sale contingencies. So in an ideal situation, if you do have to sell your home to get to the next one, it would be great if it can just be contingent on the settlement. That's swallowed a little bit better by the sellers than, A, my home's not on the market, or B, I just put my home on the market, and they get 3 other offers that are non-contingent, there's probably 0 chance of your offer getting selected. So it's just getting coached up and, know what to expect as you enter the market. So we don't want to freak people out. I mean, I think it's kind of fun. But for buyers, I can see it getting frustrating. I mean, I have buyers that have put 5 offers in, and unfortunately, we're still at it. But, they're committed to buying. They've gotten a little bit more realistic here. So, we'll get them there. And it's encouraging. I do see more inventory coming on the market here in the last couple weeks. I think the trend will continue as long as we see the COVID numbers staying down and, people being responsible.
What do you think? Oh, sorry, Ange, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and just being realistic. That's what we want to make sure. We are realistic with our buyers, and we'll take great care of them. We've been in many, Andrea and I have been doing this for a long time, and we will figure out a way to get them the house of, hopefully their dreams, and move forward.
Yeah. It's a great point. And experience is critical. I've been at this, unfortunately, for 23 years, and Angie's in double digits as well. So we've been through, the booms, the busts, the balanced markets. So you have to be educated on what you're getting into, because the market conditions change frequently. So, obviously, like I said, right now we're in a seller's market, but eventually it'll turn into a buyer's and balanced, hopefully at some point, some year. But you just have to be equipped with knowledge. That's the critical thing. And, not knocking the newer agents, but, the ones that haven't been through a recession before, they have no idea. So, you just want to be coached by a seasoned professional, as opposed to just like.
It's going to happen after COVID?
Well, I looked at Forbes magazine, and I was reading some articles in there, and they're saying that they think it's going to rebound in a W shape instead of a U or a V. So you're going to have a couple different peaks. They also think July, August, and September are going to be really hot, and then we'll have to see in the fall what happens with COVID, right? Is it going to spike again? And if it doesn't, I think we'll have a really hot fall too, because we have all this pent up demand.
Yeah, I think just looking at the market trends and see, I'd watch it weekly, see what comes on, goes under contract, settles. I think obviously we didn't have a normal spring market. So people still need to change jobs. They need to move. They need bigger homes. That's what I said earlier. A lot of people are saying, oh my God, I need more space. So
I didn't realize it.
that's really come to light.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, I think that as the COVID numbers stay down, I think sellers are going to become more confident. I think our spring market's going to slide into our fall market. So fall's kind of like the second busiest time of the year in our world. So I think the pent up spring and then our regular fall market are going to kind of collide, I think. And what I see is a lot more inventory coming on. I don't know that we're going to get anywhere near a buyer's market because the inventory is just so critically low. You know, it's been low the last couple of years, but now, I mean, it's really low. So,
And I think that when we talked earlier, we're going to have maybe next week or 2 weeks, we're going to have a conversation about how to stand out, like how to write an offer to stand out from the crowd, because that's what's going to be important, because when people want to move, we want to help them to move.
sure.
So let me recap. Is there anything else that either of you wanted to say before I do a recap?
No, I feel like we've covered a good amount of, you know, helping to kind of like shape the idea of how people are going to get into a house and how we can help them.
Yeah.
You know, best and honestly, you know, like Andrea said, I mean, the experience and understanding the market and education is really going to get that buyer into the next house, you know, picking the right realtor and lender.
For sure.
Yep.
Okay, Andrea, anything that you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I think I'm encouraged the way things have been progressing here the last few weeks. So I'm hopeful everybody is safe out there and doing what they're told, even though we're kind of opening up the state a little bit more. But, you know, buyers, you should be comfortable to get out there and do it. And I hope the sellers are feeling more comfortable to get their homes on the market. So, you know, for the sellers, gold mine for you.
I know.
I'm enjoying
but-
this phase.
Well, and one
Right.
other thing to note, you know, I've been out to visit a lot of builders, and there's a lot of great new neighborhoods popping up, and we do a really great job at representing the buyer on the builder side too. So, you know, that's another avenue. If, you know, you're having a hard time with the resale market, we can also look and see what new home communities there are that we can take you to, and there's a bunch popping up, so we would love to also show them those, and we have a good inventory that we can, you know.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Okay, so step number one, someone decides, I'm ready, I'm going to buy a home, screw COVID, it's time. I don't think I'm allowed, am I allowed to say that?
You just
Am I in
did.
trouble?
There's no, what is it, the FAA?
No, we're allowed. Never mind COVID, I'm buying a home.
Yeah.
And then they contact an agent first, contact a lender,
Yes.
have W-2s, pay stubs, and bank statements ready.
Pre-approval.
Pre-approval.
The lender, get pre-approved, come up with a priority list. What are my top 3 must-haves and the other things that I'd like to have, but must-haves separated from would like to have.
Yes.
And then you guys will get in the car and start looking at properties after you've had a nice, thorough buyer consultation to be sure that you're able to identify and help guide them to the right house, correct?
Yeah, and that's called what we call a strategy session. And that step should not be skipped right now. You know, some people try to look online, click the agent that they see there right in front of them and go see a house. And it's not the right way to do it, people. So, you know, finding an experienced agent, getting with a reputable lender, get your pre-approval, set up your strategy session with your buyer agent, identify the homes, do the due diligence, looking at it online, the tours, ride the neighborhoods, set up the physical in-person showings, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, more than ever. Yeah.
Angie, are there any, Angie McGinnis, are there any other questions in the chat box?
Not yet.
Okay. And then Angie and Andrea, you both have something, a little bonus that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so Angie and I together, we put our heads together and said, hey, you know, let's come up with a top list of critical mistakes that buyers make and how we can help people avoid those. So we did put together our top 6 critical mistakes. And if you're interested in getting a free copy of that, you can message us on our Donnelly Group Facebook page. Just ask for the free copy of the 6 critical mistakes. and we'll get that out to you. So just make sure you give us your email or a place to contact you on there.
Yes,
And it sounds like now is probably the most critical time because the inventory is low and you guys have to strategize a little more critically than you did before. So it sounds like that's the right time to get something in the buyer's hands.
Yeah, now more than ever, knowledge is power for sure. So
Okay.
we don't want to make the same mistakes because unfortunately, there's not a lot of homes out there to keep making mistakes.
Yes. Okay. Now, if a buyer is interested in contacting you, how can they reach you?
Oh, there it is.
There it goes.
There it is.
There it is.
So my cell phone number is always the best.
Okay. Can you share that, Angie?
Yes, 301-792-5550. Just
Okay, and
call me,
Andrea?
text me.
What was that, Angie?
I said
Text you
call
or
or
call?
text me.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and my cell's 443-521-0710 to get me directly. And, or feel free to go up on our website, tdgmoves.com, and we're on there as well if you need more information about us.
Excellent. Well, everybody, Andrea and Angie, thank you for your time. I really appreciate that. And people, if you enjoyed the Zoom today or feel as though it would be helpful to somebody that you know who is looking to make a move during COVID, please share this on your Facebook page so that we can get the information out and keep people safe. We appreciate you tuning in, and Andrea and Angie, thank you for your, I think I'm combining your names, Andrea and Angela.
We're going to have one of those celebrity names.
I like that idea.
Andrea.
We're going to come up with them. You have to
Andrea,
work on mine because my name's not that fun, Diane. You work on that with me, Angie, all right?
Okay.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Talk to you soon. And
Our pleasure.
have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so
Stay
much.
safe out there.
You
Bye.
guys too.
Bye-bye.
Happy Friday.
Happy